The context. JellyStara is an indie Christian VTuber who debuted as a VTuber back on January 10th, 2026. The controversy would begin on July 8th, 2026, when Star posted a 89-page Google Docie that called out SylentBell, a larger indie Christian VTuber. This would be posted as a follow-up to a post made back on July 5th, where she vaguely mentioned the events that transpired, and asked for prayers as she focused on her health for the time being. The accusations. The document, co-authored by Star and her boyfriend King, was divided into 19 relatively small sections, though the accusations can be condensed into 4 major claims. Bell allegedly used Star transactionally rather than being genuine friends. Bell allegedly plagiarized various content and branding aspects of Star. Bell allegedly defamed and harassed Star to damage her reputation. And Bell allegedly, with the help of others, coordinated a mass exodus of Star's community members to Bell's community. To try and go over each claim briefly, Star would claim that what seemed to be initially a decent friendship between her and Bell over Christianity was really just Bell consistently reaching out for content creation advice rather than a genuine friendship, as the majority of conversations between the two primarily revolved around Bell's content creation, even when Star would discuss personal life matters and feelings with her. This wouldn't be the primary cause of the two falling out, however, it was a significant contributor. What could be seen as the primary cause, however, were the plagiarism claims, where Star would showcase multiple instances starting back in February of posting some form of content or meme on her Instagram, only for Bell to post either a very similar or exact same styled meme on her Instagram shortly after. Now, Star would point out how Bell, at the time, did state that she was using Star's memes for quote-unquote referencing purposes, which Star didn't have any initial issues with, though did find it odd that it did become a regular pattern for Bell to quote-unquote reference her content. This would also be seen through other mediums, such as Star's Discord server, where Star claimed that after Bell joined Star's server early March, Bell began directly copying the structure, format, and general function of the server to have her server be nearly identical. Around this time, Star would begin pivoting her content back to original scripture-based content, discussing various topics and how they were tied to the Bible, while also changing her editing style due to the plagiarism pattern that she had noticed. Did it end up changing anything? No, as Bell would begin to adopt the same style as Star in her content, even getting to a point where videos would be directly copied. This would become a major part of the controversy, as on March 17th, Bell would DM Star about a user accusing Bell of copying other VTubers, which would give Star the chance to privately confront Bell about how questionably close Bell's videos are to Star's. Bell would apologize and claim that she doesn't watch Star's shorts, and emphasize that spreading Christ in the VTubing sphere was both of their priorities, to which Star was quite iffy about. When Star attempted to respond the next day, after thinking how to respond overnight, she found that Bell had removed her from all platforms, though left her added on Discord. After blocking Bell, Bell would immediately vague post about Star on her Discord server regarding praying for discernment and that people should be defined by their behaviors and actions rather than their proclamation of faith. Shortly after, one of Star's admins of the time reached out to Bell asking for her side of the story and her reasoning behind removing Star from everything except Discord, to which Bell stated that she did that out of a lack of response from Star and taking Star's initial confrontation as if Bell never put any thought into quality content creation, and felt that Star's reaction was quote-unquote nuclear. A few days later, both Bell and one of her moderators chose to comment on one of Star's videos, and while the comments weren't anything bad or rude or accusatory, Star did feel that she wasn't being left alone despite moving on. On March 22nd, Bell and King would have a civil call on Discord where the two would agree to avoid each other and keep this whole situation private, with King periodically reaching out to Bell for the sake of keeping peace. After some time, on April 12th, Star and Bell seemingly chose to officially part ways and move on peacefully, which seemed to be a successful maneuver on both sides. However, on April 22nd, Star would notice that Bell was still attempting to copy aspects of Star's content, more specifically the SEO optimization aspects of it, by copying hashtags, titles, and posting times, even going so far as to shift her content towards Bible readings after allegedly seeing Star's positive metrics on her own Bible readings. The final portions of the document focus on the events that occurred on June 8th that led to their communities being essentially pitted against one another, focusing on how a staff member, Denon, played double agent for Bell by informing her about jokes from Star's staff regarding a lewd video from Bell. This would lead to Bell going public about the situation with another vague post, and criticizing Star and her staff and Bell's server, which would lead to the beginning of community harassment. After Denon's departure from Star's server, 2 other moderators followed with them, with them discussing the situation in Bell's server, resulting in an increase of community harassment. King, Bell, and Denon would attempt to reconcile in DMs about the whole situation, though to no real avail. On July 3rd, Star found out that the ex-mods of Star were actively funneling her community to Bell's server as a way to cause more damage to Star, even having a separate Discord server made with the intent to gossip and defame Star and her community, which would be the final nail on the coffin for Star to publish this document. To wrap up the document, Star would address Bell by stating that she wasn't trying to cause any hate or harassment towards her by publishing this document, but hopes that personal growth happens after this situation. The responses. Given this whole controversy has been more or less contained in the Christian sphere of the VTubing community, there hasn't been any major influxes of support and or criticism towards the parties involved. Though, with what's been given, initial responses have been generally positive, with people supporting her and hoping that things will get better. On July 8th, Bell would make a response post, essentially stating that she did own up to her mistakes of copying content, but counters Star by claiming that she never directed nor encouraged any forms of harassment towards Star. Rather than a response with a Google Docie, Bell opted to share a Google Drive folder that contains screenshots and videos of DMs and conversations. While most of the provided content would end up serving as a way to line up with Star's document, the most notable screenshots provided were screenshots of the previously mentioned jokes from Star's staff, making fun of Bell's lewd style content, which the contents in question were things that weren't included in Star's document. The aftermath. To be quite honest, there really isn't any major aftermath to this situation as of recording, as no significant events were publicly shared or mentioned from any of the parties involved. Ultimately, both parties would receive similar amounts of support and criticism from the Christian VTubing community, and neither party has really seen any major increase or decrease in their metrics as of recording this video. As with all my videos, do not harass anyone in or outside of this video.